Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus.
Mbulubinaka, and a very good morning to you all. Let me first convey the sincere apologies of the Honorable Prime Minister, who unfortunately cannot be here with you this morning. The Honorable Prime Minister, as we speak, is undergoing dental treatment due to some dental complications that has developed over the last few days. It started in Brisbane over the weekend. We were in Brisbane and we arrived on Sunday, and he has been going through this dental problem, and thus he unfortunately cannot be here with you, and I do convey to you his most sincere apology for not being able to be here with you because of that need for urgent treatment so that he can continue with the rest of the official engagements from Friday, I believe. I will read his speech, and I will not change it, and I hope that you will bear with me this morning. I'm delighted to be here today at Vatukoula Convent School in Mba to officially open this new classroom building as part of our Cyclone Winston rehabilitation program, so that your students can put the trauma of the cyclone behind them and get back to the business of learning. Today is the third day of our tour of schools that we have successfully upgraded and rebuilt following the destruction caused by Tropical Cyclone Winston last year, the strongest cyclone to ever make landfall in our hemisphere. I was fortunate to be with the Honorable Prime Minister over the last 2 days. We started in Nayala Secondary in Tailevu, and we continued yesterday, but I have to go back to Suva because of the change in program today to go and attend to some other official engagements. But I am indeed privileged to be here as the Minister responsible for disaster management. Let me assure all of you that after Cyclone Winston, first we had to have a post-disaster needs assessment which is benchmarked on current best international practices. And what followed the post-disaster needs assessment was what we call a recovery framework. It's important for us to have a recovery framework so that we just don't only rebuild for the sake of rebuilding, but we have to rebuild to ensure that there is resilience and we become better and stronger in the future so that we can be in a better position to survive when we have cyclones of such categories as Winston. Today I am opening this classroom block at Vatukoula Convent School, and this afternoon we will do the same at the area Kanya Parshala Primary School and also at the Mba Sanatan College. None of these school projects are not simple rebuilds. These schools have been reconstructed to a far higher standard, worthy of the students who rely on them and more resilient to the severe effects of climate change. At this opening of Vatukoula Convent School represents an investment of over $321,000 by my government to bring it to a climate resilient level of construction. Mba also saw the full brunt of the destructive force of Cyclone Winston last year, and the students of Vatukoula Convent School, along with countless other young people throughout our islands, were on the front lines of the brutal winds and torrential rains that devastated vast stretches of Fiji. So I know I don't need to remind anyone here of the heartbreak and misery that the cyclone brought to our shores, because your community experienced that firsthand. In the wake of the cyclone, we were in villages and communities all over Fiji, leading relief teams and assessing the extent of the damage and destruction. It was a trying time for the Fijian people, as we mourned those that we lost to the storm and began to pick up the pieces of communities that had been brought to their knees. But even in the midst of that suffering and tragedy, I could still see that the resilience of the Fijian spirit was undiminished. I saw it in the smiles and optimism on the faces of affected Fijians, some of whom had lost everything. And I saw it in the actions of our countrymen who ran to the aid of those who needed it most and gave their time, energy and resources to help their neighbors get back on their feet. That spirit of resilience inspired me then and continues to inspire me to this day, as it has been the driving force behind our massive effort to reclaim what we lost to Cyclone Winston. We knew it would take time to rebuild all the homes, schools and other infrastructure that were washed away, because we knew we needed to get this right on the first go. We knew we had to build back better, because building to the same standard as before would spell disaster for Fiji when the next cyclone reached our shores. Because the experts have already warned us that storms like Winston are only going to become more frequent and more severe due to the catastrophic effects of climate change. The reality is there is considerable work to be done to prepare ourselves for what is to come. 95% of the schools we are rebuilding from Cyclone Winston were built with no structurally approved plans, leaving our students vulnerable to climate-related catastrophes. We can't afford to rebuild to that standard, because to do so would stick us in a costly cycle of rebuilding year after year and put the lives of our students at risk. I'm not prepared to let that happen. My government isn't just rebuilding. We are building back better. Every school we construct is being built to code to withstand severe weather events. Yes, it has taken time, but yes, it is well worth it. Still, even though we know storms like Winston are only going to get worse, many do not share our vision for a more resilient Fiji. They only think short term and want us to rush this process along, but that would compromise the safety and security of ordinary Fijians. That is not responsible, and that is not true leadership. My government isn't taking the easy road. We aren't hurrying to put up schools that will not only stand for a year or for a single term in office. We are building a Fiji that will last. Schools that will stand for generations, homes that can be depended on to keep our people sheltered, and infrastructure that can be relied upon in times of crisis. We are making steady and unrelenting progress towards that goal, and we have a clear game plan for building back better Fiji, better than it was. This financial year we have seen enormous resources poured into our rebuilding effort, and we've already completed the vast majority of groundwork to reconstruct many of our schools. Some of that work has been carried over into the upcoming financial year, where we've allocated another $170 million towards the reconstruction of schools alone. Our rebuild has also seen unprecedented collaboration with the private sector, including with the Fiji Institution of Engineers, who I'd like to personally thank for carrying out the assessment work for our schools pro bono, and for assisting with our Adopt a School program. On behalf of a grateful nation, to the Fiji Institution of Engineers, and I would kindly invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to all applaud the effort of the Fiji Institute of Engineers. They did this work for us without any costs, without any cost at all. I'd also like to acknowledge our dedicated staff at the Ministry of Construction and Implementation Unit in the Ministry of Economy, headed by Mr. Shah Mohammed, for bringing a new level of professionalism to government's construction work, in particular for our rebuilding program. Once again, let us put our hands together to acknowledge the work by the Construction and Implementation Unit in the Ministry of Economy. Thank you, Mr. Shah, and your team. We've also borrowed to complement our own allocations toward the rebuild. And I'd like to thank the World Bank and the ADB for partnering with us to help in our rebuilding effort. Any honest economist can tell you that our financial strategy to get our nation back to its feet is sound, because we are borrowing to build, to set up resilient infrastructure that drives economic activity and schools that prepare the next generation to succeed. We are investing in the potential of the Fijian people, and that is proven to grow our economy and set us up for even greater prosperity. We are committed to quality construction and getting the best possible returns on every dollar we spend. And we understand that our investment today will protect Fijian taxpayers from far higher costs of having to build in the future. In total, the Construction and Implementation Unit has completed 20 schools that sustained major damage in the cyclone, with work underway on 148 others, many of which will be completed soon. And we've also, through the Ministry of Education, completed minor repair works on 143 schools, with 175 currently being completed. Progress is being made, real progress, not temporary fixes. And I'm very proud that as part of that effort, we've completed the construction of this new classroom building at the Vatukoula Convent School, making your school more resilient to severe weather and more capable of serving your students. Today, your community truly has something to celebrate, and this project marks a big step forward for our effort to build back better. At the completion of this new school block, and the completion of this new school block send a strong message to your students that we care about their success and are prepared to invest in their futures. Our work across Fiji is far from finished, and it will not stop until every affected Fijian family and household is able to have their own day of celebration and begin putting the memory of Winston's devastation behind them, and my government will not rest until that day arrives. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the statement from the Honorable Prime Minister. Vinagabagalevu, and thank you, and Danyabad.
The rest of the community at Convent.
Sandra. Ini. Sandal tiga na Wilbo. So, mesti na pibak kalau ngetagi na kurbuli Vatukoula Convent School.